in a small village called Manuo, where people lived by the strength of their hands, there was a poor but hard-working family. The father, Baini, had once been strong and capable, but a terrible accident left him without an arm and with a face marred by deep burns. His appearance set him apart, drawing stares of pity and avoidance wherever he went. Yet Baini never gave up. He labored wherever he could, trading his sweat and what little strength he had left to put food on the table for his wife Anna and their only son, Pinet. Tragically, the person Baini loved most never looked at him with compassion. Pinet grew up ashamed of his father, seeing him not as a protector but as a burden. Whenever his friends caught a glimpse of Baini's scarred face and unsteady walk, Pinet's shame turned to anger. In his young eyes, his father was not a silent hero but a cripple holding him back. From that wound, the bond between father and son slowly fractured, planting the seeds of a tragedy no one could foresee. Still, Baini gave everything. He worked nights and early mornings, just to make sure his boy had clean clothes and books for school. But to Pinet, those sacrifices could never erase his father's scars. He lived in fear of ridicule, afraid his peers would discover the man waiting at the school gates was his father. One day, he lashed out, "Don't ever come to school again. I don't want anyone to know you're my father." Those words pierced Baini's heart. Yet he stayed silent, eyes heavy with sorrow. From then on, Baini never showed himself to Pinet's friends again. He watched from a distance, swallowing his hurt in exchange for his son's fleeting smile. But the distance grew. Pinet took his father's sacrifices for granted, while Baini endured quietly, clinging to the hope that one day his son would understand. Thanks to his parents' tireless efforts, Pinet eventually left Manuo for the city. He thrived in school, embraced the bustling life, and saw doors open that no poor village boy could have dreamed of. While his peers struggled to survive, Pinet focused solely on his studies, fueled by the sweat and tears of his parents. Yet with success came distance. Each time his parents hinted at moving closer, Pinet rejected them coldly. The shame of his father's disfigurement haunted him. He feared Baini's presence would ruin everything he had built. So Baini stayed behind, quietly sending money, scraping together what he could, never once complaining. He only wished for his son to soar higher than he ever could. But deep inside, the rejection carved wounds no words could heal. Years passed. Pinet found success, fell in love, and built a family of his own, never once mentioning his parents. Then one day, Baini appeared at his son's doorstep, hoping to glimpse his grandchild. The little girl saw his scarred face and trembling frame and screamed, "Monster!" Pinet, instead of defending his father, pushed him away. "Please, don't come here again." Baini's eyes filled with tears. But he said nothing. He turned, his frail figure fading down the street, while Pinet stood there, torn for only a moment before pride and fear hardened him again. From that day, Baini never returned. He spent his final years alone in the same small house in Manuo, his body weakening, until one day he slipped away quietly, without his son by his side. When the news reached Pinet, it stirred little more than a passing sigh. It wasn't until his mother, Sharda, told the truth that everything collapsed. Years ago, when Pinet was a child, a fire tore through the hospital where he lay sick. Baini had been the first to rush in, carrying his son from the flames. But the fire claimed his arm and burned his face beyond recognition. The monster Pinet had rejected was, in truth, the man who had given everything to save him. Hearing this, Pinet was crushed. The scars he had despised were proof of his father's love. The man he had denied was his greatest benefactor. But it was too late. Baini was gone, carrying with him the pain of being unloved by his own child. Overcome with grief, Pinet returned to the old home, the chair by the window, the worn shirt on the wall. They waited in silence, as though for a man who would never return. Pinet fell to his knees, sobbing, calling out, "Father," into the emptiness. But only the wind answered. From that moment, he swore to care for his mother and carry the lesson carved into his soul. A parent's love is unconditional. Greater than appearances, greater than pride, and the cruelest truth of all, remorse comes too late. It lingers only as a scar etched on the heart forever. The story of Bainey and Pinette leaves behind a timeless truth. Too often, we are blinded by what others think, by appearances, by pride. And in doing so, we forget the greatest gift we've ever been given, the unconditional love of our parents. Bainey gave his body, his future, his dignity, all to save his child, only to be rejected until his last breath. The cost of neglect is steep. Regret cannot bring back the dead. This story reminds us never to wait until it's too late to see the worth of those we love. Parents may not be perfect. They may be scarred, flawed, or broken, but their love is pure, unmatched, and irreplaceable. The final lesson is simple, yet profound. Cherish them while you can. A gentle word, a small gesture of care today, can bring light to their hearts, and leave us with memories free of regret when tomorrow comes.